We all know that life is full of spectacular moments, ones that make us smile, laugh, and love, and ones that make us stand in awe of our own human experience and the resilience we embody. But here's the thing that we often forget. We would never be able to recognize and appreciate these moments if we didn't have the devastating ones. Otherwise, life would just simply be moments. That's why it's important to pick others up, to remind them that although things may seem dim, healing and reprieve are never out of reach. This is true for one young man whose family has gone through an unimaginable experience. A mother who had to pray more than she ever did before. A man who had to conjure up great strength to be present for his partner and to support his family, and a son who battled against all odds to fight for the version of himself he once knew. All so they could once again be spectacular. Yes, I know I'm using that word a lot, but that's truly the only way to describe this story. I'm your host, Jamila Kerwan, and welcome to this awe-inspiring, spectacular episode of InspAyre. Today we will meet this lovely family, including the young man of the hour, Miguel Bourne, a bright, active, funny, kind, and passionate young man. A great social life, a star volleyball player, and a student excelling in academics. Miguel was right on track to achieve his goal to becoming a pilot or work otherwise in aeronautics. However, on January 1st, 2020, while everyone was preparing to welcome a new year and set resolutions, Miguel almost lost his life in a terrible car accident on Anchorage Road. Miguel's mother, Kendria, was the one to receive the devastating call, one that changed hers, Miguel's, and their family's lives forever. While I can sit here and try to explain how it must have felt to receive that kind of news, I wouldn't be able to find the words. Miguel's mother and a stepfather, however, still recall the event as clearly as ever. We will meet them after this short break. Stay tuned. Discover the Caribbean from a new perspective with Calvin Ayre Helicopters. Call us today at 789-4354 or email reservations@calvinayre.com. Welcome back to InspAyre. And now we're sitting here with Kendria and Edward. These are Miguel's parents, and we're just going to learn a little bit more about what transpired and how Miguel is now. Kendria and Edward, welcome to InspAyre.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for sitting here with us. I know it's going to be a particularly challenging topic, but I know that you guys were willing to come and share your story with everyone else. So tell me a little bit, Kendria, about what would have transpired on that day when you got the call about Miguel's accident.
It all started the 1st of January 2020. Miguel was working at Nocturnal. I went there to have a little fun. We went home in the morning So he came in 5 minutes after I did, and he was supposed to be working at another show, which was best brunch ever. So he was like, "Mommy, I don't think I'm going to sleep. I'm going to play some game." And I was like, "Okay." So I fell asleep. I didn't know when he left, because he had to reach to work for 8 o'clock. So while sleeping, I got a phone call, and it was a co-worker of mine, an ex-co-worker. So she was like, "I saw a car like your own get into accidents. I was just checking up on you to see if you're okay." I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine. I'm actually in my bed. I'm asleep. I was asleep." And she's like, "Okay, all right, no problem." So when I actually catch myself, I remember Miguel going with the car. So I peeped through the window, because he didn't notify me when he was leaving. He just left. I guess because I was sleeping, he didn't want to wake me. So I looked through the window and the car was gone. So I called his phone. When I called his phone, the doctor answered from Mount St. John's. And she's like, "We need you down at the emergency right now to give us some information. Miguel was in a car accident." So right in there, I just started to panic. I started to feel cold. I started to feel hot. Like everything just started like, but still I was just trying to stay positive, maybe just a little hit or whatever. And, they're just going to treat him and we're going to come home. Getting there now, it was just a different story. Seeing Miguel lying on the bed. They still dealing with him because apparently he just reached in. Blood coming from his head, already with the oxygen mask on, experiencing seizures. So it was like I didn't know what to say, how to act. And then I started to panic. I started crying. I break down after seeing him like that. He wasn't responsive. So they asked us, because how I started behaving, I break down. They asked us to step outside because they're getting him up to the ICU. Then we went to the accident scene.
And seeing that, did it bring you to some sort of realization that this is not a dream, this actually happened?
When I saw the damage of the car, it was like this is real. But still I thank God for saving his life, because it could have been worse.
Seeing her like that, how were you able to give her the support that she needed at that time?
Well, it was very challenging. She's a strong woman, and to see her in that position, it was very difficult. He's my stepson, so seeing him too in that position, it was very difficult. But you have to be strong for them. You can't let her see you're the man, basically, so you have to be strong for her. But even though she's a strong woman too, because I am telling you, there are times where I myself wonder how she manages, and it was just a difficult situation, real difficult.
Yeah. So let's get back to the hospital after you would have seen the accident, seen Kendria, and getting to the point where you're realizing that Miguel won't be able to get the treatment that he needs here in Antigua, and the whole process of trying to get him to Trinidad.
The CT scan machine wasn't working at the hospital. The doctor's not saying anything. They don't have any answers because they can't treat him, because they couldn't get the scan done to actually see exactly what's going on. They know it was head injuries, yes, but where, how, no answers. So the nurse my suggestion is that you get him out of here because it don't look good. She's like, "Okay, I know someone that deals with situations like these, where they deal with the air ambulance if you want to get him overseas." And it's like, okay. So she gave me the card, and then it all started from there. When we actually decided that, okay, well, there is hope, and we can actually get him overseas, we started to get positive signs and all this, like, yes, this can happen. Like getting him overseas, this can happen. We started to reach out. Firstly, I shared a message with his friends, because you're thinking how you're going to get the money. After I contacted Mrs. Sandy Barry, she kind of gave me a costs, like where we have to work with the procedures and everything. So after getting the cost, I was like, oh, how I'm gonna get this amount of money? So I shared it with his friends to see if they have any ideas. You know, young people have these ideas and all these things. So within half an hour, they came up with a GoFundMe page. I don't know how, but they just came up with a GoFundMe page. So that was a start. Secondly, I contacted my boss that I was working with at the moment, and he rendered some assistance. Secondly, I contacted a friend, and she was able to get in contact with an associate with the Calvin Ayre Foundation. So, but that took maybe a day or two, but it came out positive where they were like, they're going to cover the cost. With whatever we already raised, they would cover the balance of it. And that was like, it was like a God sent. It was surreal, you know, like, is this actually going to happen? We're going to get Miguel out so he could get the treatment he need and stuff like that.
Tell me about your experience getting there, the doctors, the hospital, the staff. How did you feel when you got there? A sigh of, well, I wouldn't say relief, but at least one step closer to him getting treatment.
Getting there was another story. Well, the flight was good. We reached there, you know, the nurses on the flight, they were well experienced, so I kind of feel comfortable. It was a smooth flight. We get to the hospital now, the Trinidadian doctors take over from the nurses from the air ambulance. They hand over him then in their care. First thing they did was a CT scan. It was good and it was bad because I got negative news, bad news I should say, where he had his lungs were infected. So they did what they had to do with the scan. It took about 2 to 3 hours, I think, because they check him. They did a thorough check. So I see like about 3 or 4 doctors. I waiting in the waiting area. So I see 3 or 4 doctors came and carried me in this room. And it was in the weird hours in the morning, so the place was quiet, and I getting all these thoughts going through my head. What is it going to be like? What, you know? So when we get in the room, the first thing they said is his lungs, both of his lungs are bad. And if the medication that we're going to give him doesn't work, he's not going to stay alive. So honestly, I didn't hear anything else they said after that, because it just keep replaying in my mind. But they explaining the other stuff, but I still not hearing. I was just numb. I went to the apartment that I was staying, left Miguel at the hospital, and I went home. I went to the apartment, I went on my knees, and I pray like I never. For some reason, after that prayer, I just felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder.
You felt like there was some hope?
Yes. There was a sign of relief. I could feel the Spirit. I can feel God telling me like, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. Because I never get that feeling before. I can feel it. So from then, I was like calm. I stopped worrying. I just be positive. When I reached the morning, there was like, the doctor's like, we have good news. The medication, they're seeing results and it's working. So that part will be fine. And that was a sign of relief. After then, I was confident, I was hopeful, I was calm. And when Edward get there, I feel even better because, you know, I have support. It's not just me alone feeling lost and, you know, yeah.
And Edward, when you came and you saw this tiny little lady, and you know that she went down with Miguel by herself when you got there, I'm sure the tower of strength that you are, you just exhibited exactly the kind of support that she would have needed at that time.
I can remember it was about 2:33 in the morning, my phone rang. She calling from Trinidad, crying. That's probably when they told her about the lung issue, because that was the conversation. She's saying that they're saying that he's going to die because the lung is so bad. You know, and I am trying to console her and everything, but fast forward, you know, going out to Trinidad, I went the Monday evening I got there. Was she alone in the waiting area? I went to... Well, as you said, I'm the bigger one, the tower of strength. She ran to me and I hugged her and everything, and told her everything is going to be all right. You know, and then as she said, she got good news the same Monday morning. So she was even probably feeling better.
And then they were able to address some of the other issues. Tell me, walk me through that process.
After they realized that the lung now, they have that under control, the medication is working, their positivity with that. They started dealing with the brain and the seizures, trying to get it under control. So they continue with the treatment, and the seizures become the problem now, because they weren't stopping. They tried many medications, and I can remember the doctor saying, "This is our last one. We're running out of ideas. We don't know which other one to use. All that we know of from a doctor perspective, we tried. And this is the last one. If this one doesn't work, we don't know what more to do." Thank God, the last one worked. Well, I guess to save the best for last. The last one worked. So they were getting that under control. They started to, the brain was also improving, like with the blood and the bleeding and the bruises. Everything was just improving. Everything just started falling into place. They started to reduce his medication because they had sedate him, like take him off, reduce it so that he can start getting conscious, waking up. So, and then, well, all the time he was in the ICU with doctors and nurses around him 24/7, day and night. But going back, they had to put in the trach so that he can breathe, because he wasn't, well, he went with an oxygen mask, and then after his condition and stuff like that, they decided that they would do the trach, where he would have to breathe, where he have to be on a ventilator.
And this was inserted through his neck?
Yes, yes. So they decided they're going to do that because they see going to be a period of time that, you know, he's going to be there and he can't breathe on his own. So they did the trach. They also did the feeding tube, because I remember he's not conscious, he's not awake, so he can't eat. There's the only way that he can get food in his body to keep him alive is through the feeding tube. So they did that, and all those procedures were successful. They didn't have any hiccups, or everything just went. Remember the doctor saying that he's a very strong fellow. When he went to do the feeding tube, it's like his muscle.
Giddens, yeah. He's saying that his stomach walls is so
strong
that he had problems in getting in the feeding tube.
Because he was an athlete, right? He played volleyball and everything, so his abs.
Yes, and that was one of the reasons. That's one of the reason that keep him alive and strong, because his body was healthy and he was fit, and because he was young also. So all that was a plus for him. So they did the trach, they did the feeding tube, and then, you know, he getting his feed, he getting his medication, and everything just started flowing. He got discharged from out of the ICU because he started getting conscious, waking up. Not much, not talking, but just opening his eyes. At one time, he was like responding, like if you tell him squeeze your hands, he would squeeze it, but rarely, but still, it's still a plus. It's still something positive. Every little thing is a plus. So you see changes every day. Yeah.
Yes. And Coming to the, just before you would have left Trinidad and him being discharged, tell me about that process. Which doctors, you told me off camera the names of the doctors who were so wonderful with Miguel's treatment just before they discharged you. Tell us about your interactions with them.
When you get there in the morning, soon as they see you, it's like they just start telling everything, like happen every minute of the night, every second. What he did, how much time he urinated, how much time he coughed, how much time he had seizures, what time, how long it lasted, like everything was just on point. No way you had to like ask, you didn't have time to ask questions because everything was just laid out to you. You know, and they were so concerned about him, just looking into his well-being, make sure he eat, even wanted to wash his hair. He's lying there not conscious, and they're interested in washing his hair. You know,
that's the level of care that they were giving to him.
Yes, and you know, even up to this day, they still communicate with us, want to know how he's doing, and just, you know, they just love to see when like we send them videos. You know, they're so happy, and you know, you can feel the love. Yeah.
So Dr. Peng and
Dr. Peng, Dr. Patrick Knight, yes.
Dr. Gittins,
Dr. Gittins,
Dr. Ram Narayan. It was a whole team. It's like everybody was just there, ready and waiting, and you know.
It was so different, you know. You're not really seeing that elsewhere, you know, and it's your first experience, so you know you just think that it was so overwhelming.
And you're happy also because you're already going through such a challenging situation, and they're there to help you, at least to steer you through it, to guide you through it, and to give you some hope.
Yes,
even though at first when you came, when you got there, it was looking a little bleak, and then of course with some divine intervention, of course,
yes.
you know, and then the doctors, the human angels were able to help steer you through that process.
And as she said, even to this day we still communicate. Every time I call Dr. Peng or Dr. Knight about something, they're always willing to help. And first thing, how is my boy? Well, that is how Dr. Peng speaks. He's Asian. How's my boy? How is my boy? You know, just last week I called him and he just wanted to find out how everything he's doing with me.
Yeah, they just make you feel comfortable. Even though you're in that situation and that atmosphere, you still have a sense of hope and comfort. It's like, you know, you don't have anything to worry about. He's in good hands.
So tell me, when he was well enough to travel back to Antigua after that 3 weeks, you know, coming back home now, that there's a different kettle of fish, because now you're going to have to play not just mommy but also nurse. Tell me about that transition from Trinidad back to Antigua.
I'm going to go back to something you said, when he was well enough to come back home. He wasn't well enough to come back home. It was just by force. It wasn't our plan. He wasn't fully ready to come back home, but things didn't go how it was supposed to go, so we had to return home. Hence the reason he went straight back into ICU, returning to Antigua, because he wasn't fully ready to return home. At the back of our mind going there, we thought he would have came back on a regular flight as a regular passenger, commercial flight. He didn't. We had to return on an air ambulance, which was another challenge, raising the money again, getting him back here. So that was another challenge, getting him back.
Tell me a little bit about after coming back to Antigua.
Okay. Getting back to Antigua, straight into the ICU. He's still not talking, still not responding, still not talking. Everything, all the tubes still where they're supposed to be, still on the ventilator. But at that time they was trying to get him off. So it was like, we came to a point where they discharged him from the ICU because they needed the room. He still needed the care, but they needed the space. So they had to move him up to the open ward. But when he went up there, they was like, there was nothing really, because he was already off the ventilator. It was just his medication he was getting. But because he still wasn't responding and stuff like that, they still wanted to keep him. And from the doctors in Trinidad, they're the one that recommend that he stay in the ICU because of the intense care that he needed. But after they get him off the trach, after the ventilator, they removed the trach. He went up to the open ward, and then the nurses up there is like, or the doctor told us, you can either stay there to recover some more, or we can take him home. At that point, I wanted home even before he went upstairs in the open ward, because we didn't see him what we wanted to see. He was losing a lot of weight. Sometimes we go there, we would have to like do personal care for him. So I was ready to get him out. As soon as the tray came out, give him proper food and stuff like that. Because we even brought it to the nutritionist attention that he was losing a lot of weight.
So he's basically wasting away.
Yes. He wasn't getting the therapy that I was supposed to be getting. Cause, even though you're lying on a bed, you still need like a flexing and stuff like that. We used to do some when we go there. We would try our best at our knowledge. So we got him home. I said, no, he's not. I tell Edward, and this was on Edward's birthday, the 1st of March. I said, no, I want my child home. I think I could do a better job than what he's getting, better care. And the 1st of March 2020 is when he came home. And from then, a nurse was actually administered to come 3 days a week to help clean the hole, because the hole was still here, the insertion, you call it?
Incision, yeah.
Yes, it was still there, the feeding tube. She was administered to come 3 days a week. But COVID started and all that. She just came one time since he's there. She came once, and she's like, so I take it on myself to say, try to learn, like look at what she's doing. Just in the event, 'cause if she's going to come 3 days a week, what happened to the other days? I will still need to do it. So I took it on myself and I learned. Luckily that I learned, because I had to end up doing it 7 days a week. So I became the nurse, the doctor, administer medication, weed him off the medication. Most of them had a lot of bad side effects. So like even, for instance, even one might help with like, they had like memory loss and drowsiness. But remember, you want him to be conscious and be up and going. So how are you going to give him a medication that have side effects of being drowsy?
So you're just using your basic knowledge.
My basic knowledge.
Mom knowledge.
Yes. Along with Google and YouTube and yes, and my sister also was guiding me, because like I told you before, she is a nurse, so she would guide me. She even came down from America to assist me, and because we realized that we need to do this as a family. So she came down, she gave me some assistance, some guidance, some teaching. So all in all, I just keep going on and just keep learning, and he just keep getting better. Every day, you will see positive results. You will see something new, even as being up, even as sitting up was something positive. Like moving his hands was positive, because he was his left side wasn't moving at all. He wasn't talking.
When you see him doing things that as human that you're supposed to be doing. As she said, he was just there lying down, nothing.
So every little sign, every little hint that he's coming back to some semblance of normalcy, that made you feel hopeful. But you couldn't do this if you were working.
No.
You actually had to leave your job.
Yes, I actually resigned from my job, because we were thinking about hiring someone to do the job. But as a mother, you're thinking, even if I pay someone, they're not going to do a better job than I will. So I'm like, the best thing for me is just to resign and take care of my child. No matter how long it takes, I know he's going to get the best care.
Yes. And Edward, that was a little heavy on you as well, I'm sure.
Well, it was, but in the end, I think, as you said, it was just the best thing, because I think I had inquired about getting a nurse. Yes, I think I did. And the daily rate, it was going to be way more than she's earning. So the best thing was to do was for her to stay home and look after him. Yeah. And it worked out well.
And how long that period of you being chief cook and bottle washer, nurse, maid, mommy, everything, how long of that period did you do that for?
I'm still doing it. I'm still at it. But the most intense part was like, like a year?
The first year.
Yeah, the first year. Because from the 1st of January 2020, when he got into the accident, he didn't utter another word until May. Even though it wasn't something that you were expected to hear.
I was scared. She's downstairs with him. Because it was
2 stories. Yeah.
And all I heard was screaming. Come, he said something. Went downstairs, what he say?
And that started giving you even more hope that things could get better. It's going to be a long process, but you're in it for the long haul. As mothers, as parents, that's what we sign up for, yeah?
Right.
We surely hope you found this special episode spectacular and inspiring.
If you did, we're pleased to reveal that this episode was part 1 of Miguel's journey to recovery. Stay tuned for the upcoming episode where we meet Miguel as he shares his experience and provides insights into his current state of well-being.
I'm Jamila Kerwan. Do join us again for another edition of InspAyre.